Well, what a night. Joining us now is the chairman of the Conservative Party, Oliver Dowden. Very good morning to
Hello,
you,
good
Mr.
morning.
Dowden. Let's start by talking about last night, if we may. An absolute drubbing, wasn't it? What went wrong?
Well, voters in North Shropshire were fed up and they gave us a kicking. And I think they wanted to send us a message. And I want to say, as chairman of the Conservative Party, we've heard that loud and clear. We need to get on with delivering the job, and that's precisely what we're doing. For example, with the booster programme to deal with the Omicron variant, we've administered over 700,000 vaccines just yesterday. I would, though, say that these are quite unique circumstances, and in a by-election like this, you would expect the opposition party, the Labour Party, to be surging. They were a strong second, and in fact, they're sinking.
But it wasn't normal by-election dynamics, was it? And you talk about special circumstances, but really, you've gifted this to the Lib Dems, and you say that they sent you a message, the voters there. What is the message that you're receiving, and is it an endorsement, do you think, of your leader?
Well, voters are clearly fed up, and they want us to get on with the job and focus on the job. And our job as a government, particularly at a time of crisis like this, is to make sure we're focused on the core priorities. Number one is to get on with delivering the booster programme. That's the way we stay open and we maintain normal life during this very difficult period. The Prime Minister's put turbo boosters under that, and we've had over 700,000 boosters administered.
The Prime
Equally,
Minister...
on the economy, we've got some of the lowest unemployment since before the crisis. That's where our focus must be.
But, Mr Dowden, this isn't about the booster jab, is it? This is a referendum on the Prime Minister, effectively. Is he still an electoral asset for the Conservatives?
Yes, I think the Prime Minister is an electoral asset for the Conservative Party, and I'll tell you why. Just take the three really big calls we've faced. Get Brexit done. He's delivered on it. We've delivered the fastest...
Many people would say they're not satisfied.
We've delivered the fastest booster programme in the world twice over, and we've seen the economy through this terrible period with unemployment lower than when we entered. So I think actually on the big calls, the Prime Minister has the vision and the direction to get us through this difficult period.
A lot of the Red Wall Tories, though, are going to be worried, aren't they? And any Tory, indeed, with a slim majority, they're going to be worried about their seats. You've got a problem.
Well, we see results like this midterm. It's a case, it happens time and time again. You know, between 1989 and 2014, we didn't win a single by-election in government. We lost Brecon and Radnorshire to the Liberal Democrats before the 2019 election. We won it back. If the Liberal Democrats did as well in by-elections, in general elections they do in by-elections, they've been in power for the past 50 years. It is the case that people have sent us a message. We've heard that message, but I wouldn't extrapolate too much through to the general. So
mumblings about no confidence in the Prime Minister. Are conversations being had behind closed doors and letters being written?
Well, I have no idea whether letters are being written, but I have every confidence that the Prime Minister has the leadership to see us through this period. And I think he has shown, whether it's in relation to getting Brexit done or this latest record-beating booster campaign, that he's got that drive and determination.
Again, we'll come on to the booster campaign. I know you're clearly very keen to talk about it. More stories, though, today in the day's papers. Your leader himself, the Prime Minister, is accused of attending a party at Number 10 during the first lockdown. Your comments on that, please.
Well, I understand that this was a meeting that took place in the garden. Actually, it was the case at the time. If you're going to have a meeting, you're better off having it outside because of the fresh air and ventilation.
So will questions be asked? Will there be an investigation into that?
Well, I've seen the account given by Downing Street that there was a meeting that took place, and it took place outside. I think that was perfectly appropriate and reasonable. There had been a press conference previously, and it was perfectly reasonable to have the meeting afterwards outside. So will Simon Case be looking into the details of that one as well? I don't think there's a need for the Cabinet Secretary to look into this one because the circumstances appear to be pretty clear.
CCHQ, we understand again from the papers that police are quizzing two people about that party that took place there with Sean Bailey. Is it right that police are quizzing two people that were there at CCHQ and they're not looking into what happened at the various parties that are being alleged at Number 10?
Well, you wouldn't expect me as a Cabinet Minister to comment on the operationally independent Metropolitan Police, but in respect of the completely unauthorised party that took place at Conservative HQ by the London mayoral campaign, it was appalling, It was wrong. It should never have happened, and the people involved have been punished.
OK, let's move on. Another front page that I don't think you'll like the look of. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Terrible pun there. But the idea is that's the direction of travel. Are we looking at more restrictions ahead of Christmas?
Well, these are very difficult times, and we've seen with this surge of Omicron doubling almost every 2 days, we're having to take very difficult decisions. And I think anyone that pretends that this is simple or straightforward is pretending. However, I do think right now we have got the balance right. The key thing is the booster. If you
can I come back to the restrictions,
this is
Mr. Dowden?
This is a very important point, though, about the booster, because it's only if people get that booster that we can continue with the kind of freedoms that we have now. It gives you 75% protection against it, probably more against hospitalisation. That is the plank on which we're building our strategy.
Wales is bringing in new restrictions. Scotland has gone further. Why are we always a step behind? And even the Queen has cancelled her Christmas parties. Shouldn't the messaging be clearer?
Well, the message is clear that people need to be sensible and cautious. But because of the vaccine, because of the booster, we are confident that we can have restrictions as they stand at the moment, alongside the further mask wearing and so on. It's because of the strength of that booster, and that's why it's essential that we keep getting that booster into people's arms. And we've had record success with that yesterday, with over 700,000 administered. I think that is the correct and balanced approach.
All right, less than what is targeted, though, at 1 million. You are asking people to choose effectively, though, aren't you, between the advice being given by the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty, and the government. Very mixed messaging there, but it appears as though people's trust is going with the medical professionals. We've seen the cancellations, we've seen a real drop-off in people using public transport. They're not trusting the government on this.
Well, Chris Whitty, with whom you might imagine I speak frequently, Prime Minister, Cabinet and I are all in agreement, and the single best thing we can do in this situation is to get the booster rolled out as rapidly as possible. We made that big call back in the summer to buy the Pfizer and Moderna, another big call by the Prime Minister. That is very effective against this new Omicron variant. We're saying to everyone, get your booster. If you get your booster, we can build back up that wall of defence and continue with life as it was before.
Just one last question about Chris Whitty. Reports in the papers that he's under fire from Tory MPs for effectively freelancing and advising people in a way that doesn't accord with what the government is saying. Is your party at war with the CMO?
Well, I have a great deal of respect for Chris Whitty, and I think we should respect his integrity and independence as an advisor. Of course, advisors advise and ministers decide and are accountable for the strategy off the back of that. And I know that these are difficult times and people have
well, do you think
a
he went too
range
far?
of...
Were you personally disappointed with his intervention at the press conference?
I think it's perfectly appropriate for Chris Whitty to advise the government, which is exactly what he has done, but is equally perfectly appropriate for the government to make decisions off the back of that. And that's what we've done with this strategy, the core part of which is the booster campaign. I'm sorry to keep on talking about it, but it is so essential that people get that booster.
One other thing I want to talk to you about before we get on to boosters, a business community crying out for support. The Chancellor was swanning around in California. What is going on? Is there any more support for businesses?
Well, the Chancellor certainly wasn't swanning around. The Chancellor was out in the United States representing the United Kingdom, meeting with leading businesses in the United States. He's also been in constant contact, for example, with the hospitality industry and the Prime Minister. We have demonstrated time and time again that we will stand behind business when they need that support. For example, when I was Culture Secretary, I remember when lockdown started, I was warned that we could lose 1/3 of football clubs, 2/3 of our cultural institutions. Thanks to the record Cultural Recovery Fund, £2 billion, we've preserved almost all of them. There's money there. There's money in relation to business rate relief.
I know
we are
you say
that
that he's...
in.
Forgive me for interrupting, Mr Dowden. I know you say he's meeting with businesses in America. It's very important. Businesses say that they're going to go to the wall over Christmas here. They say, where is he? He should be meeting with us. He didn't show up to a round table yesterday. He also says that existing support is enough, but the businesses say they won't survive through Christmas. So what's going to happen? Is there any hope of more support for them?
Well, the Chancellor is returning to the United Kingdom today, I understand. If you look at the kind of support that's available, take the business rate relief through to spring, that will mean that businesses are paying a quarter of the business rates they would normally pay for. That's why we've cut VAT and kept VAT cut at 12.5%. There's also over £250 million still with local authorities that could go to support businesses, and I know that the Chancellor is working with them to get that money out. So we have proven that we'll put the resources in and we will support those businesses, and I know the Chancellor's committed to doing that.
All right, but no new money as far as you know at the moment as you sit here?
We have already put support in place. Of course, we watch this hour by hour, day by day, and I know the Chancellor is very closely engaged, but at the moment we have appropriate supports in place.
All right, Oliver Dowden, thank you very much for coming in to see us at Sky News. Have a great Christmas.